Okay, so let's go over some of the materials that you might want to collect so you can be successful on this project. One, I have erasers. I'm going to need those. Colored pencils. I might want those. Definitely a ruler if you like rulers. Pencil sharpener. Two of my favorite pencils right here. A thin black Sharpie if you have it. If you don't, a ballpoint pen will work just as well. And maybe some watercolor and paper. Now we're going to be looking at an artist that I have posted, and his name is James Gulliver Hancock, and he is an artist from Australia who's currently living in New York City, and his art project is kind of a lengthy one because he is drawing every single building in New York City. That's incredible, and his work is beautiful. He is an illustrator, so he's illustrating these buildings in a particular style. So we're going to be using his work as sort of a platform to jump off and look at our buildings from Brattleboro and render the buildings in Brattleboro in a similar style. But hopefully you find your own style with him as sort of is more of an inspirational artist for you. So here's an example of some of the line work that I did on a building, and I really looked very much at the top of the buildings. Often you'll find a lot of detail, these architectural ornaments as they call them, and also around the windows and above the doors, the stairs. We don't have too many buildings that have these long stairs like this, but there are some. So I'm gonna put that in your documentation on your Google Classroom so you can pull this back up and look at it. So the first thing I do when I'm looking at a photograph or a picture of a building is I try to get like the biggest shape. And usually most of your buildings, and you're just doing the facade of the building. And most of the facades that I put up there are mostly flat and rectangular. So I usually start off with a rectangle. And you can notice that I'm doing it lightly in pencil. And then I'm going to look at the top and kind of figure out what is the shape of the top of the building. Does it have an interesting line work up there that I might want to capture? Does it have anything sticking out of the roof? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then I'm going to plan out my windows and figure out the shape of my windows. Do they have bars? How many window panes might they have? And I'm just lightly planning them out. Notice that I haven't committed to anything quite yet. I'm just sort of mapping out my building, my shapes of my windows, I should say, onto my building, so I have a sense of placement. And I think that's important, to have that sense of placement. And maybe that's like, doesn't work for me. I'm going to take those two windows out, because I'm sort of making this building up. I'm not looking at an actual building. But you can see how that I'm just placing that and figuring it all out. Okay? So once I get to a point where I'm satisfied with my placements, then I'm going to go back and really commit to those lines a little bit more with my pencil, clean it up a little bit. And then I will get something like this, in which I will then start outlining in my ballpoint pen or my thin black Sharpie, depending what you have at home, but definitely it's something kind of thin. Most likely you guys will be using a ballpoint pen, which is perfectly fine and fantastic. I don't like using rulers. I just want to point that out. I sort of like the quick, shaky little lines that I get. It makes it look very spontaneous, and that I'm sitting on the ground in front of this building on a nice warm spring day, and I'm looking at this building and drawing it as I see it. And that's kind of why I like these little shaky little lines. Now, Mr. James Gulliver Hancock, the artist that sort of inspired me on this lesson, adds a little watercolor And I just want to show you this little kit. This is my traveling watercolor kit. It has a cute little paintbrush that's made out of metal, and open it up, put it together. I'm totally in love with this little kit. It has served me well. So I'm going to pick out just a little color. And I'm going to use red today. And I'm just going to do a quick little color wash on areas. Not worried about staying inside those lines, but I'm just kind of getting a little impression of what I want a little color on my buildings is going to be. And just kind of figure it out where I want to put the color. I'm not really concerned. That's up to me and how I'm feeling. And I'm not really looking at anything particular when I do this. But I'm not coloring everything. I'm just sort of highlighting the areas that I think would be kind of cool to highlight. I'm doing just a nice rough wash, as you can see. I'm almost finished. Probably could do a little bit more. But for the sake of time, and I know you've been on your screens, I'm going to end this lesson with maybe just that. This looks pretty good. Just adding that little bit of color, you can see that it sort of accentuates your line work, gives it a little bit of pop. It doesn't take away from what you're trying to achieve, which is the personality and the patterns of the building itself. One thing I should point out, if you wanted to add, say your building's brick, but you don't want to do all those bricks, you can just do small bricks like this and sort of hint that this is a brick building. You'll see this a lot in illustrations where they just add little elements that tells the viewer that this building's made out of brick, but without getting all the brick done. Because sometimes that brick can overwhelm you if it's too static. So anyway, take a look at James Gulliver Hancock's work. Really look through those pictures. You can even check out his website. I put that link on his website as well if you wanted to check out his website. This is the kind of line work I want to see when you pick one of your Brattleboro buildings. So let me just go over the objectives one more time. You're going to choose one of the images that I have of one of the buildings in downtown Brattleboro, and I want you to do a pen and ink drawing of that building. Simple. Really break it down to the architectural elements that you see. The windows, the squares, the ornamental decorations at the top, the way the door is presented. Those are the things that I want to see. No shading, just line work. And then when you're finished with that, maybe add some color. I chose watercolor, but you could easily do a little crayon work or colored pencil. And I look forward to seeing your finished work. Have a fantastic day.